If you've been following my channel, you know that I do talk about near-death experiences quite a bit. I posted people's experiences when I was at a local hospital many years ago. I was the director of mental health services and treated probably over 1,000 people that had experienced a near-death experience because it was a step-down unit, and many people require resuscitation before they're ultimately sent to the step-down unit, and a certain percentage of those individuals who were resuscitated had near-death experiences. So I got very familiar with these people and their experiences. I think there's credibility in the majority of the stories that were told to me, in that I think that they were valid, out-of-body, extracorporeal experiences. Now, does that mean I think it's okay to base your theology on near-death experiences alone? Some people get into that. They really believe that because of their near-death experience, they have the afterlife all figured out. And their entire theology, their entire belief system about the afterlife is based on their near-death experiences or the near-death experiences of others that they watched on YouTube. And the thing is that when you try to enter into a discussion and maybe a little debate about some of the finer aspects of their theology, they respond by mentioning that near-death experiences, their belief system is not based on some book like the Bible that's just a book of writings, but it's based on experience. It's based on near-death science. One of the things that's necessary for a good investigative scientific study is an unbiased investigator. Let's say that your research project is to look for pollution levels near a particular automobile plant, okay? Now, which results would you have more confidence in? The results of a graduate student working on their PhD from 30 miles away, and they're determining the quality of the water near the plant versus the quality of the water 10 miles away? Or would you believe the scientific research from an investigator who is paid by the plant? Okay? Now, right away, you're probably saying, wait a minute, if the investigator is being paid by the automobile plant, then there's a bias there, because you're going to probably see lower pollution levels in his study versus the studies of a graduate student who doesn't have a horse in this race. And you'd be right. When it comes to near-death studies, the problem is this. This is a very sensitive issue. We're all humans, and when it comes to beliefs about the afterlife, we all have a horse in this race, okay? There is no such thing as unbiased. There is no such thing as neutral when you're talking about spiritual matters, when you're talking about afterlife matters. We all have a preference, okay? So when you're talking about near-death science, please understand that whatever approach you're listening to, whatever people you're listening to, we've all got our biases, including me. So if you want to compare your theology that's based on scientific near-death studies versus religion, understand that it's all religion. It's all religion because there's no way to study near-death experiences with an unbiased investigator. Now, when it comes to beliefs about the afterlife, I believe there are 4 possible points of view. You have, for example, the reductionist atheists. They don't believe in any spiritual things at all. Everything is biological. They believe that we evolved from primordial ooze. Everything is biological. All aspects of human experience can be explained on the basis of the organic brain. There is no spirit, therefore there is no afterlife. Any afterlife type experiences are simply fanciful and created by the organic brain. Next, we have your anti-religious spiritualist. And again, there's quite quite a continuum in the spiritualist type people. These individuals, they do believe in God sometimes. They certainly believe in an afterlife. However, they strongly believe that religion is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you did on earth. It doesn't matter what you believe religiously. We're all going to heaven. Everything is cool. God is great. He is wonderful, because near-death experiences show he's a wonderful guy. Okay? So there's that. And there are other beliefs within that category, but that's kind of the main one. Next, you have your Bible-believing Christians. And in the world of Christianity, in the world of people that call themselves Christians, there's quite a variety of beliefs. What I'm going to be talking about is the biblical concept in terms of what does the Bible actually say about God and the afterlife, and kind of contrast that with these other viewpoints. And lastly, other religions that also believe in God. And so those are the 4 viewpoints that I'm going to be expounding on and contrasting. Okay, we'll start with reductionist atheists like Sam Harris. I just got his picture up there because he's probably the leading reductionist atheist in the world today in terms of speaking on college campuses and everything. And the reductionist atheists, everything can be reduced to the biological. Everything can reduce to physics and biology. Okay, there's nothing spooky going on. And essentially what their perspective says is that there is no afterlife. Consciousness is purely a function of matter. There is no soul independent of the organic brain. When your brain dies, you cease to exist. You're gone. It's over. There is no awareness when that brain shuts down. Now, this is probably, in light of what we see today, in light of this mountain of individuals who are reporting their near-death experiences on YouTube, and look at the thousands and thousands of near-death experiences that have been reported to NDERF, the Near-Death Experiences Research Foundation, all the books that are out there. And because people are talking openly about their near-death experiences, unlike before, when I first started as a psychiatrist back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, people didn't talk about near-death experiences very much. And people that had them, they might tell me, their doctor, about them, but they didn't go around talking to other people because they didn't believe that they would be believed. This was a very sacred experience for them. They are sure that it was real, but they know how it sounds. And so people kept it to themselves. Nobody wants to be seen as a weirdo. So it wasn't talked about now. Well, that horse is out of the barn and galloping down the freeway. Okay, people recognize that this is common. It's all over the internet. And very often people even know people that have had near-death experiences. I ask that sometimes in my interview. Do you know anybody that's had a near-death experience? Because it's so common. I mean, people have relatives and friends that have had these things. They were there when Grandma died, and Grandma started seeing, relatives, and she was talking to them and so forth. Or Grandma had, she lost consciousness, or her heart stopped. They had to resuscitate her, and then she comes back and tells you these things. These are common experiences now. So some of these cases, some of them involve something called veridical perception. And if you don't know what that is, look at the link here, and it'll take you to a whole discussion on veridical perception. In a nutshell, veridical perception occurs when somebody's heart stops, the brain shuts down, and they have the sensation of popping out of their body. And they describe looking at their bodies and at the doctors who may be working them from the vantage point of the ceiling. Okay, they're looking down and they're describing what's happening. What is astounding about these experiences is that when they think of a family member, when they think of the people, for example, that came with them to the hospital, immediately, boom, they go to the waiting room and they're able to watch them. And I have personally had patients who, when they had that experience, were able to describe what their family members were talking about. They're able to remember what was playing on the TV when they were floating on the ceiling in the waiting room, what everybody was wearing, and so forth. Okay, there's lots of stories like that. I'm not going to get into all of them because you can just watch the video watch the link that I posted here, and you'll see lots of examples of this. This happens quite a bit. Now, I have debated afterlife on college campuses. I've debated on television. And when I'm with the other side, the opponents, usually the reductionist atheists, they say something along the lines of, they don't outright try to say that my patients are lying, or that the patients who report veridical perception and the doctors who report veridical perception, they don't come out and say they're lying. What they do almost always is they say something along the lines of, in the future it will come to be understood through the reductive materialistic paradigm. Okay? So in other words, I don't have any idea how these individuals in surgery are able to see things in the waiting room. However, I'm sure it's not spiritual. I'm sure that future scientists will have the answers. So just because I can't answer it, I defer to future scientists. They will explain this in terms of reductionist materialistic science. That faith in future scientists with no evidence right now to back you up, that's called faith, okay? And what they are doing is exercising faith in the religion of SCIENCE-OLOGY, okay? Pure, raw faith with no basis, okay? SCIENCE-OLOGY, another example of SCIENCE-OLOGY is the belief in the multiverse. There is no evidence to support the existence of a multiverse. All the science fiction shows, you've got multiverse. You've got scientists on TV talking all the time about the multiverse. Okay, the problem with the multiverse is based on the idea that, the Big Bang that gave birth to this universe, man, those things happen all the time. Because you have to explain, why is it that when the Big Bang occurred, that all of the laws of physics, all of the matter and energy came together and gave rise to this incredibly complicated, matter-filled, intellect-filled universe? I mean, it looks like it was designed. It screams design, all right? It looks like we were made on purpose. It looks like the universe sprang into existence for the purpose of making us. And their response to that is that, nah. These things happen all the time. If you have an infinite number of Big Bangs, eventually one of them had to give rise to us, okay? So that's why they believe in a multiverse. The problem I have with that is that, look, if these Big Bangs are as common as you're saying, then why is it that when we use our telescopes to look into deep space, why is it that sections of our universe don't blink out or change drastically because a Big Bang happened over there and obliterated a tenth of our universe? Because that's what I would expect if indeed these Big Bangs are just popping up all over the place an infinite number of times. Okay? So that's faith. That's faith. So the belief that one day we'll explain how your brain can pop out of your head and go visit folks in the waiting room, but it's invisible. There'll be a scientific explanation that doesn't involve the existence of a soul. Kind of hard to swallow. That is belief. That is a religion. The religion of SCIENCE-OLOGY, and they're exercising faith. What they're saying is that, we evolved from primordial soup, and as those molecules got together, eventually it came out with bacteria and fungi and amoebas, and then you have multicellular organisms, and eventually after you get through with the fish, you end up with mammals and lizards first, and then mammals, and then these mammals kept evolving, just keep adding millions and millions of years, and eventually you get down to the early man. Now, early man kept on evolving, so not only did they get smarter through natural selection, they evolved extracorporeal consciousness. They evolved a soul. A soul that is not made of lipids, proteins, or carbohydrates. Therefore, it can't be coded for by DNA. So how did you pull that off? Well, SCIENCE-OLOGY. One day science will come up with an answer for that. The reason I'm not spending too much time talking about the reductionist atheists is that very few people believe them. Okay, so they've been out there tooting this horn for a very long time, but the message just isn't really resonating with the American public. 72% of the American public believe in the existence of heaven. They believe that we have a soul. So these guys are just losing the battle, man. I mean, they're just not being taken very seriously. The evidence is stacked against them overwhelmingly, okay? So that's not something that we really need to spend a whole lot of time on, because they're just not very convincing. They can use all the fancy words they want. The problem is they just don't have any bullets in their gun. Next, I'm going to talk about the spiritual people, the people that you know, they don't, when you ask them about their religious belief, they say, well, you know what, I believe in God, I believe in heaven, but I don't believe in any type of religious thing, okay? And, you know, God may or may not be there, but certainly, you know, I believe we have a soul, I believe in a heaven, and I believe I'm going. I don't have to do anything, I'm a good person, and so I'm going to heaven. And now we have people who have positive near-death experiences who are convinced that for sure they're going, and since they didn't subscribe to any religious belief, they are confident that it doesn't require observance of any religious thing at all in order to go to heaven, okay? And this is pretty common now. And a lot of the things that they say, I actually agree with, by the way, okay? But we do have some differences.
I think when you die, your soul just like goes up.
And I don't believe in hell.
Yeah, I will go to heaven, for sure.
I think I will go to heaven. Actually, I know I'll go to heaven.
Once we leave this physical shell, we're already going to be in heaven. That's what I'm saying, we're already in heaven. We just, when we die, we awaken to that heaven.
I think I just wish good on everyone, and I'm wanting good for everybody, and I don't think I carry evil thoughts.
Truthfully, man, I think I'll go to heaven. You know, if don't too much change with my personality right now, my character, I keep going the way I'm going right now, I think I'll go to heaven. I think I'm a pretty cool cat, you know.
I think all you really need to do is like just be a good person.
I would hope that he upstairs would recognize something of the good things that I do.
And everything that I've done has always been good at heart.
I'm a good person.
Good person.
No, I'm a good person.
I think we're all going to heaven. I think once we finish out our course here, might have a couple more lessons to go through here. I think each time we go through another lesson here, I think we're constantly reincarnated. Might come back as a flower, butterfly, another person, maybe a cousin, it might be your own son next, you know, at one point in your lifetime.
I believe in karma. What goes around comes around. As long as you're a good person, God will forgive you.
Yeah, we'll all go to heaven. I think even Hitler is going to go to heaven. There's no hell. Come on now. You think if you were God, would you allow, like, a Satan? No, you'd pick him up, you'd slap him around, and say, get your back up to heaven where you belong. There'd be no fallen angel. Once again, that's the man.
You don't kill anyone. You don't harm anyone really bad.
And we make mistakes, and that's part of Christianity, that, you know, we're all human and there is that room for mistakes and you can be forgiven.
You know, we judge other people by what they do. See somebody just, you know, chew some gum and throw it on the ground, we're like, what a jerk, you know, just polluted like that with no second thought. That's really, you know, this guy's not a good person. This person is lousy, okay? Because look what you're doing, you know, you're just throwing trash on the ground like that. But for ourselves, when we make mistakes, we judge ourselves on our motives. And because we always have a good reason for the things that we do, when it comes to balancing the scale of good or bad, we always tend to judge ourselves on the good side. We have this inner lawyer. These are called ego defense mechanisms, and they protect us from shame. Now, sometimes that's a good thing because there is illegitimate shame where we feel guilty for things that are outside of our control, okay? But then there is legitimate shame, and part of growing up is learning that when we make mistakes, when we cross lines and offend people unnecessarily and behave in a way that is dishonorable, what we're supposed to learn is that, you know, that wasn't cool, and we should feel a little guilty and change. And many people, they learn those lessons. There are a lot of people, however, that don't. Their ego defense mechanisms are so strong that they don't allow themselves to experience the shame that they were supposed to have experienced. Therefore, they don't grow and they keep doing the same bad things over and over again. Now, I've interviewed lots of people. I've even done some forensic psychiatry. So I've interviewed people in prisons and jails. And you know what? Everybody thinks that they're basically a good person. One of my favorite quotes was a guy I treated probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And he said to me, I never smoked anybody that didn't deserve it. All the people I killed were bad people. I've had drug dealers tell me, you know, I sell drugs, certainly, but I don't sell to people under 18. Or I don't sell the hard stuff. There's always a reason why the bad things that they did really weren't that bad. Now, when such a person has a near-death experience and crosses over, they go into the tunnel, they make it to the end, and they meet the Lord, what they experience very often is that it's a wonderful experience. He's incredibly loving. You love the way you feel when you're around him. And again, I use the word him, but you know, people get the sense that both genders are there in this deity, no matter what he looks like, because he has characteristics of masculine and feminine. But we refer to him as him, sometimes because he has a beard, that kind of gives it away there. But again, both genders are still kind of there. And you feel this acceptance, this love that goes all the way through you and gives you this sense of being home, a sense that, wow, you know, I want to stay here forever. This incredible, warm, enveloping, inviting love that you get there, and you just, it's better than any experience on earth. It's better than any drug experience. It's like the best high you've ever had multiplied by a billion. And nobody wants to leave that. And after having that experience, they go, wow, I must be really good. I must, you know, clearly I'm going to heaven, because otherwise this would have been a bad experience, but it was a great experience.
Anyway, when it broke loose, it hit me so hard and so fast. It was like when I'd been in a wreck before, a car wreck, everything went into slow motion. And when it happened, I remember, man, it folded me up quick. I was a really flexible person at the time. You know, I was doing wrestler's bridges and bridge back on my head right here and all the way down. I could crush my nose and touch my lips. You know, as a wrestler's bridge, I was really, really flexible. And I could almost do the splits again. You know, I hadn't been able to do that since I was 16. But anyway, it hit me, and then everything, as I said, we went to slow motion. I could hear the cable hanging, and as it was bringing me in, and into the other shelf next to me. And so I could hear this noise, like, you know, I know it sounds strange. It was weird. You know, I look back on it. And I remember trying to fight it, because, you know, I'm a fighter by heart. I'm really aggressive, physically, you know, I've done martial arts. I'm fast. And, you know, I did the Olympic lifts forever. Like the clean and jerk was my favorite lift in the world, still is, you know, but with my injuries, I can't do them right now. But anyway, I was really quick with my hands. And as it was crushing me, my mind was firing off, you know, like, stop this weight, you know, stop this before you get killed. And it swung me all the way back up into a shelf. And then I remember seeing, as my body went forward, I could see my feet coming up, my legs coming up around this thing. And my body really, I remember as I got folded up into this shelf, I remember that this tremendous weight, this pressure went right up my chest and into my neck as it was crushing me in half. And I was like, I remember I had enough time to think as this was happening. I was like, I'm going to freaking die right here. You know, I'm going to die. And I was fighting and trying to get my muscles to work. My mind was telling me to move, but it was happening too quick for me to respond, you know? And so, all this pressure went up, and I was like, please God, don't let me die like this. And the pressure went all the way up, and as soon as it got up close to my face, I blacked out. And then all of a sudden I was traveling into a light. And it felt almost like when you lay in the pool, in the swimming pool, and you're just a little bit above the water and you're just holding your breath. It was like that. No pressure, no weight on you, you know. There's pressure on you, but no weight. You know, it was different. It was even better than that. It was like you had no pressure or anything on you and I was traveling. And I remember almost like I was just standing upright and moving toward this light. I saw this light down there. It was like, it was a doorway, and there was someone standing in it. And as I got closer, I saw this guy with long hair and long beard, and his skin was almost like porcelain. You know, it was really, really white. And as I traveled up at him, his skin color kept changing. It went from white to black to white to black, and it did that over and over, changing like all the skin colors of humans, you know, like all of us. And that was kind of one of my thoughts was, you know, I always wondered, you know, if there is a God and stuff, why, you know, why are we different colors, skin colors, and, you know, and so on. I mean, I know the science part of it, you know, I was just curious why, if it was just, you know, if God did it, why are we different colors, you know? And, anyway, then his skin went, he turned gold, and his face opened up, and white light came out of it. And then he broke away, and he was just light. And, I heard the most beautiful sound coming out around him. It wasn't music, it was just sound. It was, I don't even know how to explain it, it was just beautiful. And, it like went through me. I remember almost like I was being drawn in by it. And, behind him were a bunch of people standing in a half circle. And I remember, everybody, there was a bunch of people like really, really close. And then as I got closer, because it was quite a ways away. It was almost like maybe 80 yards or something. I don't know if I'm right on that, but it felt like it was forever. I was coming up on it. And, as I got there and I saw this, they were actually people with wings. And I know how this sounds. I used to make fun of the stories like this. I was like, you know, yeah, right, jackass, you know, you know, people with wings. That's a good one. And, typical, you know, Jesus look-alike thing, you know. And so I remember just being, you know, I knew I was dead, and I was like, and he stuck his hand out for me. And, you know, here I am not really believing in God and anything. And then he sticks his hand out for me. And, anyway, I was like, no, please, you know, don't take me. But I could hear him talking to me, and through his mind, you know, not like he wasn't speaking, but I could hear him. And, the light that came around him too was, it was beautiful inside there. It was really like a soft white light, you know. It wasn't bright to hurt your eyes or anything like that, but, it was similar to the light that came out of his face, you know, like when his face broke up and he was just light. Yeah, anyway, it's a weird ass story. He was trying to take me. I said, please don't take me. I gotta take care of my family. I gotta make sure they're okay. And I remember him smiling, and he leaned his head like and nodded at me. He called me by another name. I don't know. I still can't pronounce it. I can't say it. I don't know why. It seems like it's right there. And then he said, then he called me by another name. Or that by that name. Then he calls me Willie. You know, he was like, I'll see you in quite a while, Willie. And then, I remember, I had no pain there. There was nothing wrong with me there. And then all of a sudden I was back in my body, and I was laying on the ground in a lot of freaking pain. I couldn't suck in air. It knocked the air right out of me. And it hit me right above the hips where the belly button is, you know, or the umbilicus, if you want to call it that. And it was the hardest hit I've ever taken. Anyway, I just, I laid on the floor for a couple of minutes, and, maybe longer, I don't even know, but the guy I worked with, Dan, he was outside, and he heard all the steel hit and crash, and it busted the band out and fell onto the floor. And, I was just like laying there on the ground, and I'm you know, I'm genuinely like freaked out, because I'm like, but I wasn't worried that I was hurt, because I was okay, because he sent me back. But I'm sitting there, you know, blown away by this, you know, and I'm laying on the concrete, you know, and Dan runs in. He's like, oh my God. And he's like, I'll call an ambulance. And I'll call an ambulance, Willie. Just give me a second. And he's trying to pull his phone out of his pocket. And I was like, I went like this. I'm like, you know, I couldn't talk yet. I was still trying to get my air, but I knew I'd be okay. And my mind was still stuck at what I just seen. I didn't attempt to, like, I wasn't panicked. I wasn't scared. I was literally okay, even though I just got my ass kicked really good and crushed. And my wife called me probably 4 or 5 minutes later, and she's shaken up. I answered her, and she's like, I just had a really bad nightmare that you got killed, that steel crushed you and killed you. And I told her, I said, you know, I think I did just die. I said, I don't know what to say, you know, something crazy happened. And she starts crying, and she goes, I just had this really bad nightmare, and it woke me up, and I knew you died. She goes, I could feel it. And she was like, I'm coming to get you. I'm going to take you to the hospital. I said, no, I really am okay. I know I'm okay. I said, I just got to tell you this crazy story when I get home. You know, I said, I don't know. I said, I'll just tell you like that. And she just was it took her a few minutes to quit crying and everything, and nagging me that she wanted to take me to the hospital. I'm like, I'm good, really. I'm okay. I just got, hit in the guts and squished up into another shelf and then thrown on the ground. But I was good, man. I really was good. And I remember feeling like that my life was different. I knew there was a God. It was one of the reasons I quit ghost hunting, was because at that point I knew we didn't die. I mean, I've been a ghost hunter since I was a kid, and I'd gotten some amazing results, recordings and pictures. I even had a video once, but for some damn reason, the video isn't playing the part that I need it to play, which everybody's gonna say, well, that's typical, and I was very skeptical the same freaking way. But I remember just so many cool things about the other side. Just even though I was there probably a minute or two, time felt different over there. I don't know how to explain that. But God was like just, a wonderful being. I'm not saying it was that God is just a man, because I have no idea. I think God is actually light. And it portrays something that you need to see. But God never said nothing to me. He never said, oh, by the way, you need to go follow the Bible, or you need to follow the Book of Mormon, or you need to become a Buddhist, or you need to, become a Muslim or anything. God didn't say anything. And I'm not a very good person, 100% like that. I mean, I tried, I'm definitely more good than I am bad, but I've done some mean shit to people, and I regret, I was an asshole, honestly, and it changed my life. I just wanted to be the best person that I could be after that point. And so that's what I did. I became a better person, a nicer person. Not saying I don't get pissed off at people still and get angry and want to kick people's ass, because I do, but I definitely have a better focus in life. I've talked to my minister friend, he's extremely religious, he's talked to a bunch of the Mormon family, and everybody has their own take on what I've seen and what I should think about it. And but I've always been more of a, I don't know, like a spiritualist type person, somebody that believes that there's something out there. I know there's something out there. I know there's a God. I know we don't die. I've seen ghosts. I've recorded them. I absolutely believe that we live on. There's no doubt in my mind that we survive death, bodily death. I have no doubt. But I don't have a freaking clue when it comes to, I don't know what we do on the other side. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, I know, because I read the Bible, or I've done this, or I've done that. I don't think you do know. You think you know because you're told, but you read this book that says that these are the facts, but you don't know. You've never actually died and went there like I did. And if you did, you would have a different perspective. People are going to ask me, did you ever read the Bible? Yes. And I also watched tons of videos, like they were talking, hey, these are the movies that show you what happens, and I'm not against Jesus, and I'm not against the Bible or anything like that. I just don't believe that system, that idea. I believe in my own beliefs, which is what I just said. And I don't think you have to do anything except die, and then I think you get there. I don't think there's any special, like, hey, whatever, and God will just allow you to, I asked him for forgiveness and now I'm in. I don't think that works like that. But anyway, that's my take on it. You can get mad if you want, whatever.
Okay, so let's go back and review what beliefs are manifested because of this guy's near-death experience. He believed that there is a God. Certainly he believes there is a soul, because that's what he was, a soul. God is light and very loving, very forgiving. There are no moral behavioral requirements. He confessed being a bad guy, did a lot of bad things. It was okay. It was okay. It didn't matter what choices that he made in life. And his conclusion was that everybody makes it to heaven when they die. Nobody goes to hell. All that's necessary is that you die. And boom, instant heaven, because God's really cool, okay? Now, many of the elements that he describes are actually consistent with the biblical picture of God, okay? His acceptance and love in spite of everything you've done, that's not too far off. All right, now she says there's nothing you can do to make God stop loving you. And that is actually not too far off, you know, when you look at the biblical description of God, his forgiveness and his love for you, in terms of, is there one particular sin that you can do that will make him not love you? And in the New Testament, there's one thing that Jesus said. It says, you know, that everything will be forgiven. All manner of sin can be forgiven by God. Can all. Doesn't matter what you do. Murder, you know, robbery, whatever. He can forgive that. But he said, not blaspheme the Holy Spirit. And what he was referring to there was the Pharisees, they would, when Jesus did miracles, they said, well, you're doing miracles because by the power of Satan. All right, and they were attributing the works of God to Satan, in which case he's like, you know, what can I do to convince you? If my miracles don't convince you, if you're going to say, yes, it's a miracle, but it's from the devil, I can't help you, man. I mean, there's no way you're going to have faith in me, therefore, you're not going to make it. So it underscores two things, you know, with, you know, not believing miracles, even though, or blaming the miracles on Satan, and not believing, because ultimately that's the point of the miracle, was to get people to believe. So that was kind of necessary. Now, the rebuttal in the near-death experience to that religion is needed in any way, shape, or form, the rebuttal is that for himself and many atheists and sinners, if you will, people, you know, that are engaged in behaviors that the Bible says don't do that, you know, even in spite of that, some people, they experience God as loving, forgiving, and accepting. And so that seems to suggest, well, if God was all uptight about these behaviors, about people who ignore religion, then he should have said something. Okay, he should be more angry when they get there, be like, hey man, you're really messing up. You should have stayed in church. You know, and your parents took you there, and then you decided you didn't like that. Well, that's when you went wrong. Okay, he didn't say that. Okay, so he should be more angry, and he should instruct people who are outside of the faith and doing bad things. He needs to say, you know what, you need to get a Bible and read the whole thing. You need to start going to that church that's down around the corner. I've never heard of an example where God does that for people. So because of his positive experience, he believes in a God who's kind of like Buddy Christ. There was a movie many years ago, and I forgot the name of the movie. Matt Damon was in it and somebody else. And anyway, but there was the character Buddy Christ, and it was Jesus, you know, was like winking, and like, hey, everything's cool, man. It's all right. Everything's cool. It's all good. Love you. All right. So this Buddy Christ didn't really care about whatever sins you did. It was all cool. You were welcome, no matter if you were a gangster who killed many, many people, or if you were a church choir person who never did anything wrong. Everybody was equally accepted and loved. And if you did have a lot of problems, you know, wink, wink, it's okay. I understand you had reasons. Welcome aboard. And everybody is welcome with loving, open arms into heaven. Now, is it logical to base your complete theology on brief visits to the afterlife? Because near-death experiences, in terms of the dead person, you don't have too many people whose body was dead for more than an hour or so. Okay, usually these things are measured in minutes, not hours. So you're talking about brief visits to the afterlife. Is that wise? And I say that because it's like this. Think of this. Imagine, you know, you learn French and you go on vacation. You get off the plane in Paris and you go to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, whoa, you meet Emmanuel Macron, the president of France. Okay? And you recognize me and go, hey, you're President Macron, right? And you go, yeah, I am. And it's like, I'm from America. And he says, hey, thank you. Well, thanks for coming. Welcome to France. And he speaks English, okay? And you're all happy and everything. Pat you on the back, and off he goes. And you got a warm fuzzy and going, well, he was nice. You know, here he is, the president and everything, and he greeted me, and he smiled, and he said, welcome to France, okay? And you think, you know, I like that experience so much, I want to be a citizen. So you go on the internet, and you go to the France website, whatever, okay, I'm sure I'm killing this, but you know, you go to their government website, how do I become a citizen of France? And you get all of these steps. There's all this paperwork, there's all these hoops you have to jump through, and you look at this and you look at that, and you're going, according to this, I don't stand a chance. There's no way that in any short amount of time I'm going to qualify. This is going to be a long time and take a lot of work. But then you remember, he was so nice to me. And then you think, you know what? This stuff is nonsense. It's not valid. The president of the country welcomed me. Therefore, anybody can become a citizen just by going to France because the president is cool. He's a nice guy. So I'll start announcing to other people, to be a citizen of France, you can ignore the posted requirements and the paperwork. I met the president in the bathroom and he was a very nice guy. He said nothing about doing paperwork. All you have to do is get off the plane and boom, you're a citizen. You see the logic here? And that's kind of what people are doing when they're basing their entire theology on brief encounters with God in the afterlife.